Started my career at Karingal Junior Football Club, where I was lucky enough to play in the first 6 years of junior footy was 6 grand finals. Lucky enough to win 4 of them. Went undefeated 3 or 4 years in a row, which was fantastic. In the last year that I played under 16s, was lucky enough to do a boyhood dream and kick the last kick of a grand final through for a goal to win the game. The following year, under 18 footy, was lucky enough to play senior footy at Karingal as a 16, 17-year-old. Played in the grand final that year. Unfortunately, we lost to Cranbourne. Was lucky enough to get some votes along the way and win a best and fairest, senior best and fairest, which was a great honour. I think I was lucky enough to get a couple of free votes from a couple of the supporters just because of my age, which actually got me across the line. The following year, played at the Southern Stingrays, obviously in the hope of getting drafted. Played with a fantastic bunch of guys. Luckily enough, played some reserves football with Hawthorn and Collingwood throughout the year. Also, great honour being selected to play Teal Cup football with some great players again. That, unfortunately, at the end of the year, missed out on getting picked up, but got an opportunity at St Kilda to do a pre-season, which I was offered a supplementary list back in those days, which, you know, by all reports wasn't a great environment to be in. So, made a decision to come to Frankston, which was a great choice, to be honest. Played, what was it, from 97 to 2001. The first year, I basically came down to Frankston in the hope of, you know, throughout the year playing a senior game, and the coach at that stage, David Rees-Jones, I was lucky enough to have coached me in the 97, 98, played me all year. You know, there were some amazing players, a lot of ex-AFL players in that 97 year, and you know, to play in a grand final, probably thinking back now, it's a blur. I've got a video there that one day I'll actually go and watch of the game, but unfortunately for us, we lost that final, but it was just, lost that grand final, but it was just a great experience as an 18-year-old kid to play with ex-AFL players, your Des Ryans, your Steve Ryans, Justin Pickerings, Matty Dundas, the list goes on, Brendan Moores. I was just, Andy Goodwins, I was just surrounded by absolute superstars in that first year, and probably didn't appreciate it at the time on sort of running around on the footy field with a bunch of blokes like that. You know, the environment I was in at the time was a bit surreal, to be honest, and obviously then after that year, David Rees-Jones got me to do a pre-season at Carlton, which I'm so grateful for. Great opportunity. Unfortunately, the latter part of the pre-season had some groin complaints, which basically was told if I didn't play a practice game by the end of the training, the pre-season, they would have to obviously release me or not pick me up. So unfortunately, the doctor said I couldn't play, so obviously came back to Frankston fit, had a fantastic 98 year because I had the background, the fitness, the extra ball work that I did at Carlton, so gave me a great platform to have a really good year in 98. Obviously 99 had Rob all the way through to when I finished in 2001. At end of 2001, I was a bit disappointed that you know, after a fantastic couple of years late in that time in 2000 and 2001, I was overlooked again to be drafted, so I made the choice that I always wanted to play football interstate, and Ainsley Football Club asked me throughout 2001 at the back end of the year that if I was interested to go, and basically I said if, you know, the opportunity didn't come up to play AFL footy, I didn't get drafted, I'd love the opportunity to go interstate. So I played at Ainsley Footy Club in the ACT, where I was lucky enough to again represent a state in the ACT and the country championships. Decided to come back after a year, bit of homesickness. Made the decision to coach my junior club, senior club, Karingal Football Club for 2 years. from 2003, 2004. Really missed Frankston, especially in that last year, and really wanted to challenge myself, so made the decision to come back to Frankston in 2005. And after that, finished that year as 27-year-old, felt the game was getting quicker, younger guys. It was probably time, I proved it to me, I could go back and play at that level, but probably time to give other kids an opportunity, because that's the way the game was going. 2006-07, went back to Karingal, played at Karingal. 2008-09, coached Mornington Football Club. 2010, went and played my brother-in-law Mick Ablett at the Frankston Bombers for a year, and then finished my career with Karingal. So that's basically the journey from go to woe. What people would think of me as a footballer if they saw me out on the ground, probably firstly they would look at my physique and probably say he wasn't an athletic looking footballer, probably had a few too many beers over the journey, and probably, I think one article once said that I wouldn't leave a crumb left on a plate. So from a visual point of view, probably didn't look that athletic. From a pace point of view, lacked it. Would have been probably to the back end of pace. Probably, you know, in a sprint race, you know, probably beat the ruckman. But I guess if you were watching me from the outside, one of my strengths was my engine, my ability to get around the ground, and obviously, on top of that was my ability to read the game, use my hands, and give it to the runners and the blokes that get all the accolades. So, probably not a silky smooth footballer. Worked really hard on my fitness to be able to run out games, run on top of the ground. I was just blessed with the fact that probably could read the game as good as, you know, the best of them, which obviously I was able to cut some corners, run some diagonals, and probably not have to run the same lengths to get the footy as other people, which obviously had the ability to stop that deficiency of mine of having no leg speed. So probably, you know, at the end of the day, there was a lot more talented people out there. I just think I work really hard, and as I said, blessed with the ability to read the game. It sort of made up a lot of the shortfalls that I actually had from an athleticism point of view. Yeah, the party animal, or the larrikin name that was put to me by Rob Mace was an interesting one. Look, to be frank, and I think a lot of players that played with me knew that, you know, especially probably the year 2000, you know, there's a couple of times I may have been footed up the arse because the club, or Rob especially, had found out maybe that I was out on a Friday night when we played a Sunday game. But it was actually interesting because it probably, not saying it's the right thing to do, but it probably forced me. I always used to turn up to the game if I'd actually did that on the Friday night and think, I've just got to get in the rooms, I've just got to get changed, got to get the headphones in, I've got to get the footy gear on, and I've just got to look like I am that mentally tuned in and prepare that good so that I can't play bad and I can't be questioned. So it's funny that something that, you know, could have had a major effect on the game, obviously it's not a great preparation, but it probably forced me to prepare better than anyone else, probably in fear that I was going to play bad and be questioned, and it's, I guess it's the old saying, if you're playing well, and those sort of things may have got swept under the carpet. But as I said earlier, you know, 2001, I made a decision that wasn't the way to prepare for games, and obviously 2001 was my best year at Frankston because the preparation was still immaculate, because I learned that, well, that's the way I had to prepare for a game to get the best out of it. And the reason why I did actually prepare that way, especially in 2001, was that I always felt that if I hit the ground, switched on, and maybe some players took 5 or 10 minutes to get in the game, I may have been able to pick up 4 or 5 early touches. And, you know, it's the old saying, a lot of guys went into games and after 5 minutes, if they hadn't touched the footy, they would say, you know, oh, gee, I'm flat, gee, I don't feel good today. I think because I hit the ground running and was able to get 4 or 5 touches off straight away early in the game, probably mentally made me think that, gee, I'm up and about here. So as much as something that, you know, from those bad preparation times and probably a little bit was tarnished on me, the fact that the way sometimes I did prepare wasn't the greatest. I learnt, and, you know, 2001 was, you know, a great year because I'd learnt the previous year that, one, I couldn't do that, but more importantly, I knew that I had to prepare right either way to maximise my return on the game. So, yeah, as much as, you know, the hype about drinking and that, yes, I did enjoy having a beer at the time. It's funny, I don't really drink anymore, so it's quite bizarre. But, you know, there was lessons learned from some of that indiscretion, unfortunately. And, you know, I'm sure Macy would probably have some less grey hair if I hadn't been doing it. So that's just a little bit of information on my preparation and I guess the party man sort of background. Frankston Football Club, I grew up in an area of Frankston that was probably low income area, and I guess Frankston gave me an opportunity to feel special in a sense. You know, you had your mates playing local footy and you were playing VFL footy, and you know, Frankston just gave me an ability to have confidence in myself, where probably growing up in an area like that, you know, that wasn't something that normally happened. And because of this, it probably gave me an opportunity in business to have that confidence, gave me a network of people. So in life, in general, the footy club's just opened up so many doors for me. So I'm forever grateful, and walking in today, you know, you get the goosebumps, and you know, I played a lot of football at Karingal, but you know, I haven't been back for a while, and you sort of feel guilty sitting here at the moment because it probably is my home club. Even though, you know, you grew up in Karingal, you played junior footy, senior footy, had some great times, but my most enjoyable times as a footballer was here. I probably played my best football in my career here. Well, I did. So, you know, you have an element of guilt as well because, you know, you take so much out of the club at the time, and moving forward, it's opened all these doors. So, you know, I'm so thankful for it, and, you know, I probably need to now give back to the football club, which I hopefully will do this year and moving forward, because, you know, in reflecting back on your football career while you're playing, you don't get that opportunity, but when you finish playing, you start obviously reflecting, which I have, and I just play with so many great people here, great players, so many great memories, so it means a lot, and it probably it probably comes to light now that I've retired and I can reflect, so it means a hell of a lot. Probably the regrets I have is not being able to have the chance to captain the club, and I thought in the last year I was here before I went interstate, I'd been elevated to deputy vice captain and felt that I was starting to get my career into line. The party side of it had gone, you know, the going out on the Friday night and trying to play on a Sunday. You know, I got to that age where footy was starting to become serious to me, and my preparation for the games was, you know, getting to that professionalism point, and so probably not being able to captain the club when, if I didn't go interstate, you know, that would have been a great honour to be able to say that I captained a VFL side. So that's a pretty large regret that I have. And probably the second real regret I have is when I didn't come back from Canberra. I should have come back to Frankston and played 2003, 2004, and obviously that would have connected into 2005. And you know, if I'd actually played those years, it would have meant that I was a 200 game player, and I guess that's one thing that a lot of people at Frankston haven't been able to achieve, if any, I'd be guessing. So from a regret point of view, yeah, they're probably the two main regrets I'd probably have. During my stint at Frankston, I was lucky to have 3 different coaches. I started, as I said earlier, with David Rees-Jones. Obviously, as I said, he gave me an opportunity to do a pre-season at Carlton. Obviously, he gave me an opportunity as an 18-year-old to play senior footy here. Gave me a grand final opportunity, great experience. So the first year, you know, under Reese, I just did the thing. A lot of people said I was a smart ass. A lot of times Andy Goodwin and Desi Ryan would chase me in the first 2 warm-up laps and try to bash me, but that's another story. So I'm really thankful for Reese in the first year. The second year under Reese, I probably started getting a little bit ahead of myself from a confidence point of view, and I think it may have been, you know, I was playing back pocket at the time, and a lot of clubs, because of my age and my body type, as I said, wasn't extremely quick. A lot of them were starting to isolate me in the 50 one-on-one, and I just was feeling exposed. And I always was a midfielder, and always thought I was a midfielder. So, you know, I've got huge admirations for Brendan Moore, because there was one occasion in the second year under Reese that in the showers I may have been cursing the fact that I wasn't happy about playing in the back pocket, and I should be getting a game in the midfield. But in reflection, looking at our midfield back then, there were just absolute superstars everywhere, and you know, I probably needed to get a bit of a clip behind the ear and a bit of a, mate, you're in the pecking order, wake up to yourself. So I think on the Monday or the Tuesday back at training, I got called into Reese's office, and I can't recall if Brendan Morey was in there or not, because he was our captain, and rightfully so, had pulled me up. So I got dropped that week, and basically they told me to go back and get a new attitude, which I needed at the time, being a young whippersnipper, thinking with the head getting a little bit large. So went back, he said, here's your opportunity to play in the midfield, but it'll be obviously in the reserves. So played in the reserves, in the midfield, had a really good game in the midfield, and then thankfully Reese had a chat to me that week and just basically said he was going to start throwing me through the midfield for the remainder of the year. So, you know, the way, you know, Reese, one, taught me some discipline. He was just a fun guy. I had an opportunity. I think a lot of the players in that 2-year period lived up in the city, so we were lucky enough that the old saloon bar in the corner, I can't recall if it was a $300 drink card or a $200 or $100, but I went down there one Sunday night after a game with Reese, just him and I, and had a really good evening, good chat, learned a lot about him, told a lot of stories. So you know, he really took me under his wing, and I think my development, especially early days, and the player I eventually came, he had a huge influence on that. Obviously, the next coach I had was Rob Mace, from 99 to 2001, and a lot of people would say Rob and I had a love-hate relationship at times. I'm sure I hated him at times, and vice versa, but the coach throughout my whole career, I respect the most. I put Rob up on a bit of a pedestal because he just knew how to push my buttons. I was a little bit loose, a little bit of a larrikin, as I said, and he footed me up the arse plenty of times, but I always knew he was in my corner. You know, I'd run out last, you know, running out onto the ground, and he would always grab me and shake me and say, scream in my face that if I played well would win, which, you know, straight after that you'd run through a brick wall. There was times where, you know, he pushed me into lockers and said, wake up, and, you know, had the spray and the froth coming out of the mouth. But as I said, he was always in my corner. I remember a game where, I think this was 2000, and maybe I might have been in that single phase of my life, having a good time down at Frankston, and it was one of those ones where I went out on the Friday. I remember a couple of the guys may have ventured down to Mornington with me on the Friday night, and I think we played by memory in Werribee, and I think we got beat by 120 points by memory, and I think there would have been maybe 8 or 10 guys that may have ventured down to Mornington that night. And the stat sheet basically read, I think Johnny Giorgio may have had 30, I think I may have had 20, and then everyone else in the team was 15, 16 and below, so we absolutely got hammered. And I remember going off in the last quarter with a corky, and on the Monday night we were at training, and I had the ice pack on the leg, wasn't training, and he was absolutely furious, and obviously may have heard or got some feedback that, you know, a few of the boys may have been out having a good time. So he chose to torpedo the footy at me. So again, that 2000 year was a huge wake-up call, and Rob really disciplined me to make, you know, wake up to myself, and so I'll be forever grateful, because he just got the best out of me in the end. And even when, you know, I was having a bad game, he'd rip into me at half time. There was times where I ran out, you know, may have kicked a goal or two and kissed the jumper and, you know, pointed at him or whatever. And but I got so much respect and appreciation for what, one, he did as a coach, one, he did for our team. You know, it was the us against them mentality. You know, no one likes us, no one rates us, but we played finals, 99, 2000, 2001 under him. So to me, he left his legacy in a huge one. The obviously 2005, when I came back, Brett was in charge, and you know that by that stage that I'd come back to the club, you know, there was a real core group of senior guys, your Johnny Hines, your Ash Roberts, your Mickey Ablets, your Craig Blacks, you know, your Neil Winnetons, the sort of names go on. And probably Brett and I'm not sure, because of my age at 27 and coaching experience, and obviously played in the system, that he let me go about my business and then just thought, just let him do what he needs to do to prepare, etc., etc. But from a one-on-one scenario, we probably didn't have a relationship at that time. We've caught up with each other, we've seen each other outside of the football club since, and had some really good chats. So probably the relationship after that year probably was better than while I was playing. But in hindsight, you know, 27-year-old, you know, maybe he thought, I've got younger kids that I need to mentor, etc., and he's old enough to and experienced enough to do what he needs to do. So, you know, from that perspective, I had a different range of guys that, you know, Brett tactically was probably ahead of the game with the other guys, but, you know, he really brought that to it from a positive point of view. But, you know, I was lucky to experience all three. Obviously, there was three different components, three different eras, I guess. As I said earlier, the 97-98 teams that I played in were just surrounded by superstars, and obviously I was lucky enough. Brendan Moore, hard as a cat's head, in and under, you know, but there was blokes running around in that era. That you had the Pickerings, Bowies, Mullanes, Goodwins, Lees, Ryans, you know, Dundas. You know, I was blessed, you know. So probably Maury, just from leadership point of view, and just, you know, real grunt, you know, what again, wasn't a silky skilled player, but just hard at it, worked really hard. The next sort of facet of my career, you know, big Normie Clark. Couldn't ask for a better ruckman to rove to. Probably got Johnny Giorgio and myself an extra 5, 10, 12, 13 touches a game just from hitting it straight down our throat. So from I guess a personal point of view, I know he made me such a better player just for being able to put the ball down my throat. So big Normie, and obviously his ability to go forward was just amazing, put pressure on defences just with his added height. John Giorgio, being able to play with a Liston medal winner. Firstly, you know, he was a bit of a mentor to me, a bit older than me, and we used to travel to games, talk a lot about footy. So to learn off him, to watch him go about his business, the way he prepared, the way he just presented himself, it made me grow up a lot as a footballer, as a person. You know, not only did Johnny make me a better player on the ground personally, but a great bloke, great person to be able to teach us. So those three guys from probably that era, probably Dean Burnell as well, underrated. Another guy who, you know, played down back, got a lot of the footy, you know, gave me a great word of advice. If he got it, make sure you're around the back, I'll give it to you. So another guy that, you know, underrated, but I really valued because he added to my possession tally along the way. And then obviously 2005, I was lucky enough to play with a couple of guys. Obviously my brother-in-law, Mick Ablett, just revolutionised the game, or at that time, you know, zoning off, doing all those sort of things in his frame, running back into packs. Winning a lot of the footy off half-back, driving forward, you know, he was just exceptional. And, you know, your John Hines's great leadership, and, you know, Ash Roberts, hard at it, great leader. So over that duration, I know I've missed a few guys, but, you know, a couple of those guys stand out.
One more question.
Probably the greatest memory I have is, well, there's two, especially games. We'll talk about games. The Collingwood game here in 2000, when I think we came from 6 or 7 goals down in the last quarter in front of 5,000, I think it was, or 6. Big crowd, you know, crowd going crazy, televised game. That was a great memory. Winning a final at Sandringham against Coburg. I think we're a couple of goals down, maybe kicked 5 or 4 in the last quarter to get over the line by, I think, 3 points. Just 2 games where we've come from behind. It was the old, you know, Robert Mace mentality. It was the us against them. We were the underdogs. They had all the AFL players. They were professionals. They trained, you know, so many more times than us. And you know, they're just great moments in life that you can look back on. And yeah, they're probably, you know, 2 of the cherished moments.